All right, so today we're going to talk about layers in Gravit and graphic design in general. And we're going to walk through both what layers are and what they do, and then show you how to use them in Gravit to create different designs. So when we talk about layering, we're literally talking about how things are stacked on top of one another. For example, I have two regular sheets of notebook paper, okay, a purple one and a white one. If I have just this white sheet of paper holding up and this second one, you can tell these are just rectangles. They're normal 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. If I do this and place the purple sheet behind the white sheet, they're now layered. You can see all of the white sheet, but only a portion of the purple sheet. So in this case, what it looks like to somebody who doesn't realize there are two full sheets is that we have one big rectangle of white and one small rectangle of purple, even though it's still a full sheet. So layering is all about how we stack images and designs in Gravit or any other design program to create an effect without having to perfectly cut a shape. For example, this way I can work with just full sheets of paper instead of having to produce a big sheet and then a small sheet cut to the perfectly correct proportions. I can just move it back and forth to create whatever size image I want of that piece of purple. So let's look at Gravit and let's see exactly how this works. So I've got on my new design, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up a landscape image. So this is US letter landscape, and it creates a new page. And I'm going to go ahead and call this layering practice. Okay, and once again, my multi-page support is on, so it titles my artboard or my page to work on. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of build an image using just layered shapes. So in order to do that, the first thing I need are a bunch of shapes. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start with my ellipse tool, and I'm going to kind of draw a partial ellipse, nothing super fancy. I'm going to come over here to my options, and I want to turn it into a pie, which is great. That's exactly what I want. And then I'm going to go ahead, we'll leave this at 180. Got to be able to write in there. And we're going to drop this one down to, let's call it, why won't it let me select that? It does not want me to select that at all. Oh well, we'll do it the hard way. So we'll bring this all the way over and we'll drag this down to 0. Because all I want is a nice arc. Okay, so we've got this nice little arc, and I'm going to just drop one right there, and then I'm going to go copy and paste. So Control C, Control V, and I'm going to do that a few times. So I've got several of these, and then I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to shrink some of them down, maybe change their shapes just a little, so that we've got a few slightly modified versions. Nothing real crazy. Then I'm going to grab them all, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill those with a green color. So in this case, maybe I want maybe nothing quite so bright. Maybe kind of a dark green works for me. And then I am going to go ahead and I'm going to add a border to them. Just maybe 1 point, in black. That's fine for right now. So I've got all these partial shapes. And then maybe I want to start arranging them. So as I stack them, you can sort of see they're creating kind of this oddball little shape and design set. And this works for me for what I'm doing right now. Now, here's the thing about layering that's really kind of nice, is that with layering, I'm just going to adjust some of these shapes and heights to suit what looks good to me. I'm not worried about it being perfect. I'm just going to line them up at the bottom. Now, what's kind of interesting is that if you look at this, they're already sort of stacked on top of each other, and that's based on the order I created them. And if you look over here on the left-hand side, whenever I highlight one, it's highlighted over there because that is where they are stacked on top of each other. And what's really nice is, let's say I want this shape to be behind this shape. So this shows us that this shape here is above this one. If I click and drag, it suddenly moves over here. So it's now hidden behind this other mound. And I can do that with whatever shapes I want. You know, perhaps this shape I want to be in front of this right ellipse, but behind this one. So this shape needs to be in between them. And now suddenly it's in front of this one, behind this one. Well, I don't really like that. Maybe I want to change it the other way around. So I want it to be above that one, okay? But now I need it to be behind this one. And there we go. So you can see all I'm doing is adjusting the layers, and it's building sort of a set pattern that we can build upon for future things. And what's really nice is that, so these layers let you build on top of each other. Now, what's really nice is that in layers, you can also create sets of layers. So for example, if I decide that all of these ellipses are exactly where I want them, I can create a new layer group. By clicking that, it creates this layer called layer 0. And now I can select all of these. I click on each, and I can just drag them into this layer 0. Whoops. So now they're all contained. And you notice when I drag them, it messed up my order. So I can real quick, once again, just fix that. Move stuff around. So this one here, I want all the way in the back. There we go. We're back to where we should be. Now, obviously, when I created the layer and dragged them in, it didn't really make it easy because I had to rearrange the layers. So the next time we do something, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a layer group ahead of time. Now, I have this layer, which has several options, and this new layer. I'm going to name this one Green Mounds, okay? Just because it helps keep it straight. Now, there are 3 options. There's lock. Once I lock that layer, you notice it changes to a padlock, and I come out here, I cannot manipulate any of these shapes. Okay. The second option is the visibility, makes it visible or invisible. And the last one is toggling the outline. It basically removes all of your fills and borders and just shows you the outline of your shapes. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock that layer. Now, the next step that I want to do is I want to add a new piece of the background. So let's create a few more shapes. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and create myself a perfect little circle. And we're going to fill that with a nice bright yellow. And then maybe I'm going to take, we'll take some triangles. And we're going to make some modifications to those triangles. So I've got that. And I want those triangles, I want them to have a little bit of a border. Maybe not, excuse me, maybe not in yellow, maybe in orange. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste that. So I have this orange triangle, and I want to duplicate that, and I want to duplicate it around this sun. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to press down the Z key. Remember, it turns to that magnifying glass, and just drag a box. So now I'm zoomed in right on this. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this, and I want to make sure it's lined up with the center of my little circle. Works for me. So maybe I like it, well, I like it there. That works. So what I need to do is I need to rotate this around the circle. So in order to do that the easy way, I'm going to go ahead. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste. That's Control C, Control V. Now, obviously, it doesn't look like a whole lot just happened, okay? And you can tell I've actually made a mistake. I didn't click on my layer 1 when I created all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and drag all of these into layer 1. Open up layer 1. And make sure that I am working in that same layer. So I've pasted it. I have a second polygon there, right on top of each other, so you can't really see it. But now I want to rotate it around. I want it to stay the same. So I'm going to come over here to the right-hand side, and I'm going to click on my transform tool. And this is a tool we'll dig into a lot deeper later, and you'll learn how to use these. But I'm just going to example one right now. When I click transform, it gives me all of these options, and it adds this center point. This is the center point for the object, it is where it will change in size and rotation. I'm going to click and drag that all the way down here. And you'll notice when I get to the center, it gives me these nice light blue snap guides that says this is the center of my ellipse. I'm going to let go. Now this one is considering the center of its object to be here. So if I come up, put my mouse right at the edge of the object, it comes to rotation. That's that little two curved arrows. And if I click and I drag, for example, right like that, it rotated around here. Okay. Now, I need to do the same thing again. So copy, paste, transform, drag it down, and maybe do it again. Now, if you look down here at the bottom, they're not quite lining up, and that's just because the shape itself, I did not have it perfectly set right off the bat to line up properly, and that's just because I was going fast. So paste again, transform around the center, do that. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, it's like, well, this is taking a long time. So is there any way I can speed this up? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab all four of these and I'm going to Control C, Control V, paste them again, transform them again. Again, move this down to the center. And now suddenly I've got all of them at once. Well, maybe I need to go the other way. So I'm gonna click on here, Shift and click to select them all, copy, paste again. We're going to transform, move that center down. This time I'm going to rotate to the left. And there we go. Not perfect by any means, but for what we're doing today, it's going to work fine. Now, obviously, these are right on the outside and they're on the top. And I don't really like that. So again, we can come back to our layers. I'm back here in layer one. Here's my ellipse. I can bring it all the way up to the top. And there we go. So we've got this all together, making ourselves a little shape. And if we zoom back out, I'm going to use Control minus to zoom back out. We have this shape now. I'm going to select it all. And I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. And maybe I'm going to drag it down here. Okay. So we've got this sitting here, but it's on top. So let's go back to our layer panel. Our layers, I'm going to click this little arrow to shrink it. This layer is above this layer here, the Green Mounds layer. I don't want it there. I want to shift it below. So by putting everything inside this layer, which I'm going to rename as the sun layer, I can move all of these at once and drag it beneath my Green Mounds. So now I've got the sun back behind my little hills. So layers in general are really, really powerful. They let you arrange stuff, stack stuff in front of each other without wondering if you have cut the shapes perfectly. Imagine, if you will, if you had to take this whole setup back here, all of these together, and cut it perfectly so that it matched the curve of your two Green Mounds. Obviously, that would be a big problem. It'd be a lot of work, and there's no point to it. So layers are what allow you to sort of build all of these systems together and stack them on top of each other. This way, you don't have to worry about, is the shape perfect? It also means that later on, for example, on these Green Mounds, if I decide that, well, I want a little less or more of my sun, I can come back in, I can make some modifications to my original shapes without having to worry about going back and redoing the background sun or something like that. So this is just to give you an idea of how layers work and how they function. So again, your layers panel is over here on the left. The order here tells you where they are stacked on top of each other. And then the order of the layer mounds themselves tells you where the big layers are stacked on top of each other in your image. So that's the basics of layers, and we'll use those as we learn to apply them and build scenes and pictures just like this.